The following is a segment from Session 3 of the Honestly Better Mental Fitness Show. If you would like a list of all the segments and full sessions, please visit honestlybetterfitness.com/list. That's honestlybetterfitness.com/list.
Welcome to LH Industrial's Honestly Better Mental Fitness. I'm Mike Lomberg. I'm the president of LH Industrial, standing in the middle of a breezeway in the shop in Tempe, Arizona, to get an idea of what we do behind us here. I found mental fitness a few years ago, and it changed my life. It's changed my family's life. And now we'll bring it to all of LH Industrial and recording it to put it out for us to hearing. Thank you for joining.
One more science bit here, and then we'll move past this here. This is one more look deeper into the physiological process. And there's a couple key takeaways that I'll give you up front that I think you could take from it. And then I'll talk about them in the end as well. I think the major thing is to understand that what your body is doing makes sense. Like almost everything, even the things that I'm going to say aren't necessarily good. Like there's a reason all of these tools exist. It's like going through the toolbox, and you're like, well, why is this thing? Is it like there's a reason? And the problem comes when the hammer is stuck in our hand, and that's the only tool we know how to use, and we're trying to apply the wrong tool at the wrong time. And I'm sharing some of this here to let you understand, like, emotions aren't something to be like discarded or discounted or an old outdated system that doesn't make sense anymore or anything like that. Like, it's beautiful. It makes sense in almost every way for every range of emotion. And the key is to be able to step back out of it and to think of it as it's energy guided towards a direction. Like it's moving you towards a direction or for one way or another, and it's trying to help you survive. The problem is some of these things it's trying to help you survive something that's not going to kill you, right? I'm overreacting because someone said they don't like my hair, and I'm taking it as this life-threatening insult because, right, and that is the problem, and not the emotion in there, and even in those moments where we are overreacting, we are reacting to something. They are always signposts and guides that are pointing to the thing in you that needs attention. That might be the word I say. Mm-hmm. That as a place of growth for you, mm-hmm. is a place that needs your awareness. The quote here, even though we may not always be aware of danger on a cognitive level, on a neurophysiological level, on a body level, our body has already started a sequence of neural processes that would facilitate adaptive defense behaviors such as fight, flight, or freeze. So this is part of the connecting into your body as opposed to disconnecting. In Western culture, like we value here, not so much here, right? Like call it like the tyranny of reason. Like we're all stuck up here, and there's great things to that, but it's just like our tools again, like they're all important. And Mike gave us that great example of head, heart, and gut. Like sometimes I don't know why it seems like a good thing on the surface, but it just doesn't feel right. And Mike's said in his experience, and it's like he listens to that, like it maybe not 100%, but he takes that into account and maybe says pause, like something's going on in here.
And just full disclosure, I didn't until 5 or 10 years ago, and I was back in my head for most of my life. And as soon as I started listening to my heart and gut, man, things are easier, and I'm way better at life. I'm way better at my job. It matters. It was a game changer. But I did spend a majority of my life going back to the head and letting it win every time, and it was much harder. The head, heart, and gut is a lot easier, a lot more natural. Just
right.
And it's also more responsive. It's
yes.
You don't have to show up knowing exactly how this is going to work. You just know it's going to work, and right. you're gonna, and that's how you drop into flow too. By the way, you can't be in flow and be in your head. The only way you can be in flow is if you're flowing, which is head, heart, and gut.
Right.
And I'm also not saying the head doesn't matter. You need to practice. You need to be very practiced and good at things in order to be in flow. So that does matter, because some people hear that and they're like, oh, you're discounting all of the practice and all of the education I have. Nope, not at all. You need that as well. Part of the muscle memory is the things you've learned and the things you've studied.
Yeah, I view it as like, well, which sense should I use? My sight or my vision or my hearing? Like, tell me which one's the best, and I just use that one, right? It's like, you use all of them. Like, why would you not? Like, they're all powerful. Well, which one's the best though? Like, they all give you different information. That's kind of the way I see it.
They're all
Okay,
good. If you have them all, you might as well use them all. And
right.
You're not trying to achieve one or the other. You're trying to balance. It's balance, right? And all these things are to balance it and be able to pull out the one you need, pull out the screwdriver when you need that, or the hammer when you need that.
Right. Which a bit goes back to our fitness example of the guy that just does bicep curls, right? But ignores his legs or whatever else. It's like, yeah, whole health, real fitness is working all the systems, using it to its fullest. So no matter what the situation is that you come across, you can do it. You need to run long distances, great. You can run long distance. You need to pick up heavy stuff, great. You can pick up heavy stuff, like you're a full, complete human being. And I actually might, title this like being fully human is really actually probably what we're talking about here.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's go through a little mind example, because I'm going to show you a chart that's going to have a whole bunch of stuff, but I think it's helpful to go through it at first. If anybody's been out in the woods, if we got a deer walking through the woods, or a zebra walking across the plains, or whatever it is, and it hears a noise, what's the first thing that it does?
Freeze.
Yeah, freezes. Great. Why does it freeze?
To look and listen, right? It wants to figure out where this noise came from.
Right. Beautiful.
It can't be making any noise itself, or it can't identify where the threat is.
Nice, you got it. Right, there it is. There's two things. The first thing is freeze, because maybe it hasn't seen me yet. Maybe I saw it before it saw me. Maybe if I just hold real still, it'll just walk on by me. So, first rule is don't make it worse. The second is exactly what you said there, of like, what is that noise? So like freeze, and then pattern match. It goes back to our chart here before. Trigger was our stick breaking, it heard a noise, and then it freezes, and then it pattern matches. What is that thing? Is that thing, oh, it's just a rabbit. Okay, good, I can move on, right? Or nope, it's a lion. So it spots a lion, and the lion spots it. What's the next thing that it does? Or, well, it's got two options, right? We move into our red zone here, and probably everybody knows this, fight or flight, right? And we've got a couple emotional ranges in there. It's either, on the flight side, it's fear, it's anxiety, it's all those things that like move away, and all these things are move away from the danger. It's energy to get you away from the danger. On the other side, fight is anger, frustration, irritation. And what's that one, right? What's that? What's those emotions driving you towards? Move to the danger, right? To take care of it. Go swat that fly, go stomp out that problem, go attack that lion to eliminate the threat. These both have a commonality in them. There's two things in here. If you're either afraid or you're angry and moving towards something, is your heart rate up or is your heart rate down? Up, right? Yeah. Your breath rate's up. Your body is mobilizing you for action. And there's also a level of hope of, I can do something. I can do something about that. There's hope because I can still get away, or maybe I can go fight this thing and take care of it, right? So my body prepares me and gears me up the same way on that red chart. The sympathetic nervous system activates right here. And then it either guides me towards or it guides me away from it. Okay, so I'm a deer. I'm not going to be able to fight this thing, so I'm going to have to run, right? And I run and I run, and it sees me and it's chasing me. And eventually this thing's faster than me. It leaps out. It hooks me with its claws. It brings me down to the ground. It completely pins me where I have no hope of escape. What's my best survival strategy now? If I am being torn apart by a lion's claws, do I want my blood pressure up?
No.
What's going to happen if my blood pressure's up and an artery gets torn? I'm going to bleed out really fast. So I want my blood pressure down. I want my heart rate down. I want my breath rate down. Do I really want to be present in this moment and feel everything that's going on? Or do I want to numb? Do I want to go mentally somewhere else? Do I want to check out? Do I want to disassociate? It's also conservation of energy. It's hopeless. There's no point. There's nothing I can do. Save your energy. And it's also a bit of, it's hopeless. There's nothing I can do. Why even get out of freaking bed this morning? Like, there's nothing I can do. I've tried and I've tried and I've tried, and I can't see any way out of this thing. Why even get out of bed? Right? It's depression. It's in the common factor in here is hopelessness, shutdown, conservation of energy, because there's nothing for me to do in here. It's also apathy. And it makes sense, right? Biologically, that all makes sense. If there's nothing to do, why am I going to spend my energy doing something? And actually what they do is they kind of play dead. Like, they go into this partly dead, disassociated state because maybe the lion forgets about me. And it does happen. It thinks it's got this one, so it runs off at another one, or it waits until it's not paying attention, then boom, the zebra pops up and takes off, right? Like, it's waiting for its moment. And that's a beautiful thing. And if this is the last moment and it is truly hopeless and truly dying, like preparing for death, like disconnecting my soul from my body. And that's, I'm using it as a metaphorical term, but I think it's a little bit of a literal term here as well. And I think people that are walking around in depression are like disconnected from their own selves. Like, they are slightly not there. They are numb, they're dissociated, they're depressed, they're in here. And there's an interesting thing that happens here. I don't know if you could see it on the chart, but our green and our red is our green and our red states before, right? Our green state was our parasympathetic. And you see the word in there, they didn't use the word safe, they use social engagement, because being with others is safe and being alone is not safe. And also the words in there is like joy in the present, like in the present moment. I'm not thinking about the future. I'm just right here. This is you with your friends. Everything is good. Like, why would we need to worry about anything else? Because it's great right here. Like, the future thinking stuff, which is, we might get into brain states later, is always like trying to solve a problem, right? And this is a bit about I'm never joyful and never happy because I'm always worried about the next thing, because I'm always seeing lions on that. So when do I ever get to celebrate with my tribe? Because there's always lions on the horizon. So I'm always planning for the next horizon. And this is where, I work to get to this amount, to this amount, to that amount, to that amount, to retire and die. And where was I supposed to enjoy my life? Like, why am I always moving to the next thing? This is like, I'm connected, I'm safe, oriented environment, curiosity, openness, compassion, mindfulness in there, right? And then the thing that moves us out of there is like something got triggered, something on the horizon or in my thoughts made me feel unsafe. And I had these two movements. I can fight or I can run. And then the final one is freeze. And the thing that I want to point out to you here is that the green on the bottom was a parasympathetic response, right? And then the red was the sympathetic response. The blue, if you can read it, and if you can't, it's another version of parasympathetic response, or it mimics a parasympathetic response. To me, I call it the land of, it's fine. I'm fine. We're not. We're just so hopeless and shut down from our own selves that we can't even express that it's not okay. And there's a level of like, man, a couple that's fighting together, that's a great thing. Like, it means they both care. It means they both see hope. It means they both see that this thing is worth investing energy into. The couple that's like, yeah, whatever, I don't care anymore. Like, that's the level of like, it's so hopeless. I've tried so many times that it's not even worth putting my energy into. And I think a lot of us get stuck up in that blue zone up there, thinking we're fine.
So Travis,
Yeah.
quick question. So being in the free zone, it's never healthy, or maybe for a few minutes?
Yeah. Great. Good question. If I'm in the middle of I'm in combat or something like that, and my buddy next to me gets killed or shot, like that's probably not the moment to sit there and feel and fully grieve that thing. It's probably the time to just grab him, keep fighting, and move on. Right, and that's a beautiful thing to do. I got to speak with, listen to a guy that was in Afghanistan after the withdrawal or during the withdrawal, and he talked about having to go past the lines to go get people and try to get him out there, and the horrors that he witnessed of. I won't go into details of it, but the most horrendous things that you could possibly imagine happening everywhere on every street corner. It's like, if I would have been able to, if I would have soaked that in and really like been present and mindful and like, and felt the reality of that, he said, I would have broken down into pieces right then from the horrors that he was seeing. And so his body went into this like numbed, so like numb, just that, like everything else doesn't matter, right? And that was a beautiful functional state for him to be able to do that in, and it allowed him to do great good. When you get back to base or safety or family or whatever, that is the time that you have to let go and unload and feel, and grief comes to mind in this, right? Like there's a process, an emotional process we have to go through. And the other answer to the why zebras don't get ulcers, like they almost get eaten by a lion and then they're saved, they make it somehow. They will collapse on the ground and like tremor, like literally tremor. And it's where our term shake it off comes from. Like they are literally like shaking through, and there's this like emotional process that needs to flow through our body that we have to allow. But you can't do that in the midst of a lion. Right? You can't cry when you're in the middle of a threat, but if you don't find the place where you don't have that safety, then you get stuck. You get frozen in that numb state moving forward. So is it a bad state? No, it's a beautiful state. I worked with a woman that suffered a horrific sexual abuse for days. And this was how she made it through. Like, they have my body and disconnected from her own body, but went to this own place in her mind. And a lot of the special forces training stuff I did too is like, it's the same thing. Like you are in absolute horrendous misery, but you can go somewhere in your mind. And I think it's part of Viktor Frankl and Man's Search for Meaning thing of like, nobody can take that from me. Like I can still choose my own state, even when I have zero control, even over my body, I still have a choice. So is it bad? No. And it's an emergency state that's meant to help us through an emergency, not a place to live. This is, to me, none of them are good, none of them are bad. This is nowhere near where you're at, knowing what's going. This is information in here.
I think the more time you spend in that social engagement, the green zone there, the more prepared you are for the red zone. And
Right.
I think about one thing Dan Sullivan talks about is the freedoms, and the freedom of purpose, freedom of relationships, freedom of time, and freedom of money. And if you're gathering those up, and you're going to be in that green zone when you have those. But it would get boring if you were just in that, right? So you're going to put yourself
Sure.
in that other zone, and you're going to go
Right.
out and slay the dragon, and then you're going to
Right.
come back. But I think we are building and helping each other at LNH build these freedoms of purpose, relationships, time, and money. And then if you're doing that and you've got the relationships you want and you have the purpose you want, you're not going to be, wanting to leave. You're going to want to stay in that.
Right.
And I think that's what we're creating. That's what we're creating at LNH. That's what we're creating with our mission, vision, values. That's why we're attracting like-minded people, and then dropping people into unique ability and eventually flow. Just enhances that. So it's a stacked deck of how we do it, but we know how to do this, and that's part of what we're working on here to stay in that that happy place.
Right.
Then as soon as you have that and you've had enough of that, you're going to want to go slay the dragon and get into the red zone for a while, and it's going to be fun. You're going to be excited about it because you return back to the green zone. That's why you're excited about it, because you're going to go out there and there's a choice. You can come back.
Right.
If you don't know there's a choice, or you don't have a choice, which some people don't, then they just wear themselves out, stress themselves out.
Yeah.
They're afraid all the time.
Right. I think there's something to a lot of times we think we need to switch ourselves to the red zone to have a conversation. Like, it becomes conflict, as opposed to, hey, maybe I can pull this person in with me. Like, maybe we can do this through joy and connection, as opposed to fight and combat and who wins. There's a major pivotal switch in my life where I had some stuff in my body the VA was concerned with, and I figured out some of the ways I was orienting myself to my life. I viewed everything from this, red zone, everything's a fight, and figured out it was killing me. And slowly undid of maybe I don't have to go to that place in order to accomplish this. Oh, maybe I don't have to do that. And had this incredible journey, which maybe I'll share at another time, of finally actually being confronted by a bear and figuring out that I can actually move through an angry bear with joy and presentness and compassion and love, as opposed to having to go to a place of fight. And if I could deal with an angry bear from a place of centeredness and groundness and compassion, then what's my excuse with an email or a meeting or whatever it is? Right.
Yeah. Awesome.
Okay, we'll hit. We'll kind of go quickly through some of these here. So there's some what's the value? What's the importance of emotions? When we disconnect from our own intuition, our emotions, we disconnect from ourselves, our intuition, and our own survival. And there's a key part of that in that, actually, our emotions are a survival mechanism. Otherwise, they wouldn't have been brought through with us. Like that hair that stands up on the back of your neck, you don't have any logical reason. You didn't see it, but it's there. And if you are operating out in the wilderness, and you don't have that intuition, you're not connected in with that instinct, you're in trouble. We can't live from intellect alone. And there's something about being our authentic selves. And I think that's what you were touching on in the beginning, Mike, about I need to speak up for me, even if nobody else hears it. I need to be authentic to me. I want you to think about emotion as just energy and motion, energy with a direction towards it. And just looking at what is this guiding me toward? Is it guiding me towards? Is it guiding me away? Why do I feel the need to move away from this? Or why do I feel the need to attack this thing, or whatever it is? And that a lot of our perceptions of emotions come from a family or society. Anger is bad, right? Sadness is okay, but anger is not. Or no, anger is okay, because we get anger, but crying, no. Sad, get over it. Come on, and a lot of that is just it's all just tools, and it's all things, and it's all has this purpose. Is it safe or is it not safe to express emotion, to feel emotion? And I think we talked about the ideal here is I think it's the fear on both sides of I will either get completely overwhelmed and hijacked by it. And if I do what my emotions say, there's going to be problems, right? Or so completely suppress them and disconnect from them. And the place is in that middle, right? How do I find that middle zone where I'm aware of them? How do we notice anger within us without becoming angry, or about being overwhelmed with anger, right? How do I notice fear and recognize it? I'm oh, I'm feeling fear here. Yeah, that makes sense. That's the big dragon over there. Okay, great. Thank you, body, for alerting me to this thing here. Now, what do I want to do with that? Right. And the opposite is I'm a blind idiot with no instincts and no emotion that I just charge into things. And then everyone's like, well, how did you not notice this? Well, because I've got my blinders on to my own emotions and my own feelings, right? It's I'm walking around without my hearing or without my vision. You know, the opposite is I'm the only thing that matters and my emotions are the only ones that matters and they're right. Right? They're probably wrong. You know, they're probably the person that said that probably didn't intend any of the things that you're feeling or whatever it is, right? So the place is just to be aware of it, not to reject it, not to fully, you know, buy into it or that, but to just know what it is. It's information. Just like you're hearing. If you hear something, you turn around to look. You don't be like, I didn't hear anything. Nope, didn't hear anything here. But you also don't like hear something and then immediately go do it. You hear and then you confirm. All right, it's head, heart, and gut. Also, you know, the best and most beautiful things in the world cannot be seen or even touched. They must be felt with the heart. By Helen Keller. I think it is what makes the world worth living. And it was the thing that makes the suffering worth doing for is all these things in here. Because logically, hey, we're all going to die. What's the point of anything? Okay, cool. Game over. We're done. Right. So it doesn't logically make any sense to even live because we know we don't. Or maybe there's more than just that. I touched on this a little bit on the sympathetic nervous system, like dis-ease in the body leads to disease in the body. If you look at it from like a Qigong or Chinese medicine standpoint, like places of stuck or blocked emotions or energy, like is the cause of a lot of the, you know, diseases and things that we have. And you think of dis-ease as just tension. But where are you carrying tension in your body? And tension is energy that is not flowing or not in balance. There's a strong correlation between the emotional patterns we practice and the physical ailments we suffer from. Like a car whose brakes keep wearing out, we wear our body out. And there's a great book, I don't have too much time to get into it, called The Body Keeps the Score, on how we may disconnect it from in our head, but it ends up showing up in our body. And there's really powerful and interesting things in there. That's all I'll say for now. So health, yeah, health is it. I think you can see it. Like when I trained a physical capacity, I could tell what somebody does. Oh, you must be an electrician because your fingertips are always worn down, or you're a mechanic because you have this, or you do, you know, like you can tell like what someone does, you know, through their body. And there's also, I think you can tell the way someone lives through the things that flow in them. And the way that they are, the way that they approach life. Do they have smile wrinkles or frown wrinkles? Like, you know, that's an obvious, easy example, but I think there's internal stuff in there as well. And man, absolutely mind-blowing to me is coming from like the Chinese medicine perspective and the ancient wisdom essentially that they have, like, oh, gallbladder stuff. Yeah, that's this weird way of being or thinking or whatever, like things that you would never even think about that show up in the body in the emotional patterns that are behind that. Okay. And kind of on that practical survival instinct, another book that's interesting is called The Gift of Fear. And it's all about people in survival in violent encounters, and that he studied violent encounters for a long time and how people survive or don't survive. And this is a bit of the we know why before we know why we know. And that listening to those other things, and that the most people that did not survive or didn't get through them without great harm usually knew something bad was going to happen and they didn't listen to it. You know, there's an elevator or an Uber driver or whatever it is, or an alleyway. There's like, you know what, I just don't have a good feeling about this. And they listened, you know, and then they popped and then they figure out on the news later on that, oh man, I just saved my own life from that, versus like, what? There's no reason to feel that way. I can't think of, yeah, it's perfectly safe. You know, why would I must just be crazy or whatever it is. And they don't listen to it, and then things happen. And I think when we separate ourselves from our intuition, we suppress a part of ourselves that is critical to our own survival. Allow your body and emotions to inform you without overtaking and the energy of life with flow. One of the quotes from the book is, intuition is always right in at least two important ways. It is always in response to something, and it always has your best interest at heart. So it's saying that if you feel something, it means that there's something there. It doesn't mean that whatever the thing you're feeling is the thing, but it means that there's something there. And whatever it's telling you has your best interest at heart. It's just like I brought in the alcohol, all right? Like alcohol is your best interest in your heart. It doesn't want you to feel pain. It doesn't mean in the big picture it's in your best interest, but in that thing it's telling you, it's moving you towards a direction, right? And so being able to dive underneath the surface of what are the things that I'm trying to get from this thing, and is that the right answer? And listening to that instinct, that intuition, those gut feelings. And those disappear when we are in that blue zone, when we disconnect from our own experiences, emotions, don't acknowledge them, don't allow them. And when we start to tap into those, as Mike has given us great examples, beautiful things happen. Like things start to move. We start having all this information that we didn't know we had.
And that intuition works both ways. It works on the negative, like I don't know why this is scaring me, but I shouldn't do it. It's powerful there. It's just as powerful on the it's my intuition's telling me to do this. I see a lot of people doubt the intuition when it's obvious that they should do it, and they doubt it and they don't go forward on something that their intuition's telling them they should do. So it works both sides. It works when the hair stands up and, oh, that feels dangerous, or this feels wonderful, but I'm going to talk myself out of doing it because I don't know why it feels wonderful, right?
I put on here, acceptance is the path to change. And acceptance is just accepting what is. I feel fear right now. Okay, that's what I feel. I feel this. Okay, that's what I feel. I'm moving it, and it's just allowing it. And I think there's a great another old person quote from the Tao Te Ching in here, from Lao Tzu. If you want to shrink something, you must first allow it to expand. If you want to get rid of something, you must first allow it to flourish. If you want to take something, you must first allow it to be given. This is called the subtle perception of the way things are. The soft overcomes the hard, the slow overcomes the fast. I see this a lot in the rejection of ourselves, or in shame. Shame was on their blues chart. Like we feel something, but no, I don't feel that because it's not acceptable to feel that. So boom, I'm blocking that out and I don't feel that. And it doesn't allow us to move through it. It hides it from our own selves. It blocks us from it, as opposed to, I am feeling that. Okay. All right. Like I need to allow this thing to move through. It's kind of like a problem, right? A problem in a factory process. What? There's no problem here. No, it's just fine. It's just fine. Keep the machine running. As opposed to, no, we got a problem here. Okay, let's shut it down. Let's look at this. Let's talk about it. Let's bring it out in the open. Like the solution to the problem is bring it, give it space to fill up, like allow it to come up, like talk about it, allow it to be a thing. Don't shove it and pretend it's not there. And I think we do that a lot in our internal selves. And this is part of the whole guide thing. This is the one-on-one thing. This is the coaching thing, because it's real easy when we only have to fool ourselves to be able to like, nope, I didn't see that. Nope. Nobody else heard it. Good. I didn't hear it either. Move on. Right. I had this funny thought moment when when I really started getting into like deep meditation and my own thoughts and feelings. I had this thought and my feeling about my sons, and I love my sons more than anything in the world. And they are my reason for being, one of my reasons for being. And I had a thought about my son. It was like, oh, like I was like, he's such an idiot and this and that. And I was like, I don't think that. Like, no, I don't think that. And then I set a stop for a second. I was like, whew, okay. Yeah, who just thought that if you don't think that? It was like, right. And that would have been my old way of, I don't think that. No. This is the way I think. This is the way I feel. And I'll move forward. And I do. And me saying, I do feel that way. Oh, wow, I do. Like allowed me to work through it, allowed me to figure out what it was that I was actually feeling and where it was coming from, and have conversations like I think Ryan brought in earlier, like, and they'll bring in the awareness of this thing, allowed me to have the conversation about it, like the problem on the assembly line or whatever it is. And then I bring it out as opposed to cram it in. let it expand. Let this horrible thing that we don't like, this thought that we don't want to have, expand. Give it space to breathe, to room, to say what it needs to say. And then move through it from there. Yeah, emotions are simply bodily sensations. They're not facts, they're feelings. And it's how we interpret those signals that matter. Breathe to shift, right? We talked about, you feel yourself caught, just stop and breathe sometimes. Just slow down your breath. Language matters. It changes how we feel, how we describe something to ourselves, to others. Having appreciation, compassion, and understanding for whatever it is you're feeling as if you were a young child. We talked about that. Maybe we might have a whole talk on resilience later. I consider like lessons from like special forces training and resilience and that kind of stuff. So I might save that one for another time. Yeah, and I think the overall message is like, allow the anger without becoming angry. Allow the feeling without it be overwhelming you is like the middle ground in here. And I think we talked about this last time, like owning our emotions, right? And knowing how to talk about emotions. We talked about that last time. It's like, it's not you that's making me feel this way. Well, except for when I'm angry, then it is your fault and you made me feel this way, right? It's me that's feeling this way. And I can talk about why I feel this way and what's going on with you and being about that. Cool. That's it. I know we're out of time, but if anybody's got questions, I'm willing to hang out. And if not, then I hope you all have an amazing day. Thank you for giving me your time to share and talk here. And I look forward to connecting one-on-one with everybody when you have time.